Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack.
You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them. They never rent quality flicks. They always pick the most intellectually devoid movie on the racks.
And now, on with the show.
This is Savage Beach. In Hard Ticket to Hawaii, undercover federal agents Donna Hamilton and Taryn Kendall save the country from drug smugglers. In Picasso Trigger, they save the world from the brutal hand of an international assassin. In Savage Beach, they are the targets for murder. This time, they'd better save themselves.
Good idea.
Crash land into the center of a search for a ton of gold. Where there's gold, there's greed, and murder rules the land. A paradise haunted by a mysterious presence. Take cover. This is no ordinary day in the sun. Terror reigns on the shores of Savage Beach.
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net's Loose Cannon. I am one of your video store clerks, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as we travel the aisles of big box video cassettes of yesteryear, maybe the forgotten bargain bin DVDs that you may have forgotten that may have slid underneath, the dollar packs of M&Ms. But we are back here, and you are listening to the Summer of Sidaris. Yes, that's right. It's time for bullets, babes, and very strange action movies. But I'm not alone as I travel through the video store aisles. I'm joined by my brother, my co-host, one of my best friends in the whole wide world from the city of Kitchener,
Alex, the producer.
And of course, it would not be Loose Cannon Twig without the resident professor, the smartest guy that I know who's not building nuclear weapons or designing robots.
Well, that you know of. I'm Aaron
That
Pollyea.
I know of. So yes, guys, it is good to have everybody back here on the show. Loose Cannon, we've got David Denoyer working here on the show. We've had Enrique Couto. We've had us doing stuff all spring. And for Summer of Sidaris, this is something we've been wanting to come back to for a couple of years. And we were doing a little bit of shop talk before the show started. We realized it's been years since we last talked about Malibu Express, Hard Ticket to Hawaii, and Picasso Trigger. And I'm kind of glad we're coming back to these. I don't want to call them brain dead, but these are very interesting time capsule movies of the 1980s and 90s.
It feels like what happens when an amateur gets a whole lot of money and makes everything themselves. Like, well, yet somebody who is very talented in the field, like Sidaris was a really talented like sports photographer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like there are so many aspects in this that I didn't need to make notes because I was just like mesmerized when I was going back. I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I like these movies, because there's so many logic holes and things that make you throw up the hands and go, what the fuck? But at the same time, it's still enjoyable. And we'll obviously get into that, but like, Aaron is our expert Sidaris fan, right?
Yeah, I see. I love Sidaris movies because I at least his earlier ones, let's say the first 4, which include the ones we're watching right now, of the main series of movies, the plots are really well done. Even though there's a lot of stuff that you do throw your hands up about going, what the hell's going on? Things are set up in the movie in such a way as that they always pay off. And yeah, there's a certain satisfaction with that when compared to like a lot of modern movies where there's set up and no payoff, or there's just things that happen out of nowhere. I don't know. It's showcased the best in Hard Ticket to Hawaii, where every little thing that they set up pays off later on in the film.
Well, one of the things that I was kind of noticing while I was watching these, because me and Alex, just coincidentally enough, were up late kind of watching these last night, and we were talking on Facebook. And the way that Andy Sidaris does these movies, it seems like they're almost parody of the action movie VHSs of the Cannon films, of anything that Chuck Norris might have done, or very early Jean-Claude Van Damme. It almost seems like something you'd see Family Guy or The Simpsons would do as a parody, but it's played completely straight here. And it works in a weird kind of way. Like, I'm not saying this is like the second coming of James Cameron, but it works in such a way that it's really, really entertaining. You're never bored, and you are getting exactly what you pay for. Like, if you put down your proverbial $5 on the counter at the video store, you're like, I want bullets, babes, and explosions and guns and one-liners. Well, come right this way, madam, sir, or whoever you are. I've got
also,
just the thing for you.
Something to consider, it's not a parody when it's contemporary. These were coming out at the same time as those movies. So this was just another flavor.
Yes.
Whereas Canon, while the movies were American, technically, Canon always felt like a European or production that was made overseas, because that's who the producers and directors usually were. They were either like, if there was an English speaking director involved in Canon Pictures, it was almost always somebody from the UK or somebody from South Africa. There was almost never American or Canadian directors or crew. It was European movies made for the American market with American actors. Whereas this is like, what if you did the same thing but had Americans doing the exact same thing in America with American actors with probably even a lower budget, because they weren't filming internationally where they could save a lot of money using tax credits.
Yeah, and they always had their actresses took part in a lot of the stunt work. So that also saved money. But like Andy Sidaris, he made films specifically for the American audience with actors and actresses that the kinds of people that went to see his movies would recognize, i.e. Playmates, or handsome men that are in other shows like TV shows or movies, things like that. And it's smart casting, smart production.
Well, and what baffles me with these films as a whole so far, from what we've seen with the first set of them, is if you didn't know that Sidaris was an American and that this was an American production, you would think this was an Italian or Filipino movie. Like, you saw a lot of those movies where they would just get American actors to film overseas, because the dialogue, he wrote most of these movies, right? And then I think his wife produced them with him. But like, most of these movies have the dialogue that a 12-year-old would write.
Yeah, and it's weirdly charming, but it's so to the point and yet oddly clever at times. Like there's a line out of Guns. I'm going to wait till we get there, but honestly, it's slating. I'm thinking, that's kind of clever. I'm so going to steal that for the next time that I play Shadowrun.
Yeah, and without getting to that just yet, what I'm trying to explain is, like, in my head, watch this and then watch something like Samurai Cop, where it was written by people that didn't really speak English, and then they had English speakers trying to do it, and it came out. The dialogue is very similar to those movies where a foreign person who doesn't have English as their first language writes the script using only lines that they understand that are catchphrases from other things. And they're like, it's just like adding "where's the beef" as a catchphrase for the sake of it, because it's something they've heard. But then at the same time, because everybody involved in this is an English native speaker, except for some of the actors that are in this too, but like the main principal cast and crew are English speakers, their line delivery is different than in those movies. In those movies, it comes off as very wooden and very chopped together. Like you could see like the actors are confused as to why they're speaking like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in here, everybody is just, it's very much like it's Playmates, but it's like it's Playmates having a playful, fun time doing a goofy movie, but playing it as straight as possible.
Absolutely. And well, some of the dialogue is strange because a lot of the actors and actresses were allowed to play with the dialogue on screen. So a lot of times the dialogue would just change. Something that they thought was funny or something that they thought was more fitting for their character to say. And
Yeah.
you can tell there's some times where a line comes across as absolutely brilliant. In fact, one of the lines that Mike, you private messaged me that cracked you up. You know, it's that kind of thing that is just made on set. The actor puts it in because they thought it was funny or they thought it worked, and it really elevates the performance.
Yeah. The only thing that takes away a little bit is sometimes you can tell that the actor or Sidaris thought, I have a brilliant line that came to me. I'm going to use it in the film, even if it doesn't fit the context of the scene. Sure. That's the part that makes you go, is this a foreign film? But then it's not, and then I'm brought back to being like, this is fucking brilliant. It hits me in a funny way. But yeah, that's just them as a whole. I will say before we get into the individual pictures quickly that there is a distinct change in visual quality, tone, and almost actors between Savage Beach and Guns.
Yes.
I don't know what changed necessarily in the back end. I know they shot some stuff, on different locations, but it went from looking like a 70s or early 80s 35 millimeter, like lower budget picture to looking more like a 16 millimeter TV show in quality. Like it still has that filmic quality, but there was like, in a way it looked a little better. The lighting was better in Guns, and I'm assuming from then forward it has a better lit and whatever, but it had less of a cinematic, like theatrical look to the way the film grain looked and everything. So just some visual things on my end, like there was a clear change when it went from 80s to 90s. The 80s stuff looked like 80s stuff, and the 90s stuff directly looked like 90s stuff right away.
Yeah, and I do think that some of that is the change with the actresses, because between these two movies, between Savage Beach and Guns, which are the two movies that we're going to be talking about, there was some personnel, like in front of the camera, changes. Yeah. And because of that, they wanted to film a different sort of film. Like Hope Marie Carlton is in Savage Beach. She did not return for Guns, but Roberta Vasquez became a main character, a leading lady in Guns. And then you also have the filming that's not just in like a tropical setting, but you have it in like Vegas. A big part of Guns is in Vegas, and they wanted to film it slightly differently to showcase the Rio casino. So there is a really big distinct change in the movies, both in front of the camera and how they produced it.
And I think one other part of that changed to me is like, is it weird to me that I think Guns had a higher production value and attention to detail in the visual quality, but at the same time, I felt that took away from what made the other one special?
I would agree with you that it definitely looks better, and there's more attention to detail, especially in the lighting and in how shots are lit. Because if you look at in Guns, there's this one scene that takes place in a women's restroom. And it looks like it's taking place in a women's restroom. It's lit properly. It's harsh lighting, bright white lighting. It does not look like sexy lighting. But then you go into other areas where it's clear they're using like gel lights to give like interesting, differently colored shadows being cast.
And color temperature, yeah.
And in Savage Beach, there are scenes. It has the one amateur thing that is charming, and obviously no big production studio would ever do, is there are scenes that cuts in between scenes that aren't light or color balanced. So their skin tone is brighter, and then 1 second later it's darker, and then it's brighter 1 second after that. And these are from the remastered Blu-rays. It's just that's what they had. They didn't either care or get enough coverage to do it. There's that, or there's the moments that don't appear in Guns, and I'm assuming the ones after that are things like when they do like the helicopter engine checks and everything. They're pretty, attention to detail was there. Things that are amateur, like one of the women putting on a headset, and then it's on her head, and then the next scene is her putting it on again from a different angle, but it's supposed to be happening after.
Mm-hmm.
There's like the first 4 films have continuity issues, which again adds to the charm. And it's like when that's gone, it's like that you took away what made you special. Don't get better.
I get what you're saying. I'm not sure if I would say that takes away from the movies, because I see Sidaris like changing and growing, and in some ways staying like a little boy in a lot of ways through these movies, but he does change and grow.
That's fair. So we may as well get into the meat of the matter here, right? Yeah. So Savage Beach, I mean, I mentioned off air, it's like, hey, maybe we could get a recap of what happened in the previous movies. Yeah, we're not going to do that. You can listen to the previous movies. Just know that some of the characters are connected. There's, loose connections between everything, and we'll sort of get into that if we need to. But we open up. Is Savage Beach Hard Ticket to Hawaii is internet famous because it was one of the big shared. I had a lot of clips that were shared on early YouTube.
No, I love Hard Ticket.
But a lot of meme-worthy stuff.
Yeah, but was Savage Beach the most popular one because it's the only one that got a direct sequel?
Boy, that's I wouldn't say so. No, I actually think Hard Ticket to Hawaii was way more well received,
more popular. Yeah. Okay. Because I always wondered, like, because they don't list the box office grosses because it was a private company and everything, but like, I know that they had some screenings but it was still mostly made for the DVD market or VHS market. But like, is there a perception out there as a super fan of which ones were the most popular? Like, obviously Hard Ticket was like Savage Beach right up there with it, because there's, you got like 12 movies to go through, right?
If I had to say like which ones are generally the most well regarded, I mean, yeah, it's again just kind of my opinion and who I've talked to. It's like Hard Ticket, Savage Beach, Malibu Express, and then the other ones are, they're still enjoyed by Andy Sidaris fans, but they're not as like peak Andy Sidaris. You know what I mean?
Like, and Malibu is the one that feels obviously the most like a 70s movie when we watched it.
Oh yeah.
But so for anybody listening, like, obviously we like them all so far, but would you say that Hard Ticket is probably the good entry point for people? Like, if you like that, you'll probably like the rest?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hard Ticket has that kind of fun, goofy feel where it's the type of movie I felt you could watch with a bunch of your friends. You could talk and make jokes during. So yeah, it does feel like that perfect entry point. And I think it's one of those movies where I think at some point everybody has seen, like, kind of like how you were mentioning, it's very early YouTube-y kind of clippy. I mean, even if you don't know what it is, you definitely know what it is when you see, well, the motorcycle thing. And that's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah. I think that scene, so many YouTubers, early YouTubers would clip it and put it into their random shows. So there's a few things from there, obviously. But yeah, like getting into Savage Beach, it was... I'm happy that we got back to it. I'm sad that we took so long to, because
this was a nice pick me up. I found. I mean, after having kind of a weird couple months, because 2024, it's been a ride. This was a nice cinematic break. This was a cold drink of water on a hot summer day. We're like, I want something simple. I want something refreshing. And I got exactly what I want. Like, these are the type of movies I would have rented with my best friend Quincy when I was like 9 or 10 and I didn't know what to pick at the video store. And I just said, I like boobs and guns, and this is what I got.
Probably not 9 or 10. They wouldn't have rented this one.
You would be surprised. My hometown was stupid.
Your hometown probably didn't have it.
But, think about this. Think about Savage Beach, and then think about the fact that, like, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was made the same year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was thinking about that.
Wow.
Like it's the plot. I'll say one thing here. The plot of this one was pretty hard to follow.
Yeah, it was weirdly all over the place.
And I was like, what is happening? Like, it's weird how it can be all over the place, and then at the same time, very straightforward.
Yeah, and it's just because it's kind of like a quest for hidden treasure, right? It's Japanese gold from World War II. And it just so happens that our leading ladies, Donna and Taryn, are caught up in it.
Yeah, they're delivering what is it, medicine or a vaccine?
Yeah, vaccine to Knox Island.
To a little island, and I believe, is this the first time? Because again, jog my memory. Is this the first time that we see that Andy Sidaris is their dispatcher?
Andy Sidaris isn't their dispatcher all the time,
isn't he?
No, in Hard Ticket to Hawaii, it's a completely different guy. Yeah,
but in this one, he was though, right?
No, I don't think so. It's the same guy that was in the first in Hard Ticket to Hawaii, if I remember correctly.
Oh, because I could have sworn that was him, because I've seen a couple interviews with him, and I was like, maybe I'm drawing a blank. I must be
Andy
wrong. Sorry about that,
is in this movie operating a CB, but their dispatcher from Molokai Cargo.
Oh, that's what I meant. He's the guy that contacts the doctor.
Yeah.
At the beginning. So yes. Okay, so he gave himself a Hitchcock moment, right?
Yeah, he's in almost all the movies in one way or another. Like, he appears in just very, very briefly. Like, yeah, he's the guy that he's in Hard Ticket to Hawaii, and he's griping about loving this one woman, and she's like, "You practically raped me last night. That was yesterday. Today's different, whatever." That's Andy Sidaris.
That's right. Oh my God! But yes, so very, very basic plot is going to deliver medicine during really bad weather. They deliver it, but then get downed on their way back to a mysterious island, which happens to have Japanese imperial gold that is protected by a man in his 30s wearing Elmer's glue on his face with wrinkles drawn on it.
Yeah, that was so visually distracting. Like, me and
they poured white glue on his face and then just let it harden.
Yeah.
Who was it? I think I did a show with Enrique and James last year. We were watching the Hammer Mummy movies, and it reminded me of the Hammer Mummy movie makeup. It was so fucking distracting. I couldn't stand it.
What's even better is it's just his face that's wrinkled, and then they like brushed in some like temporary dye to his hair, not even to the roots though. So like the roots of his hair are still black, but the tips are gray.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's so low budget. And he's lived on that island forever, protecting the gold, waiting for 50 years for the Japanese to come and get the gold back, and not having a radio or anything. And then they give his little backstory as to what happened at the end of the movie for no reason other than to fill in the last 5 minutes of runtime.
Him waiting on the island, I totally bought, because there were Japanese soldiers that didn't stop fighting or didn't think the war was done for decades and decades and decades.
That's what I mean. And I guarantee you where he got the idea was hearing those stories that were coming out in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
When that was started. I know that a lot of it came out when they started doing aerial surveillance to make maps and stuff, and they're like, there's somebody living in these places, and they found out it was literally like downed Japanese soldiers. Mm-hmm. Because I don't remember the exact person, but there was a story I remember reading in the paper that the man was discovered there was a man discovered on an island in like 1972 already at that point, and he still thought the war was happening. Mm-hmm. And like he wouldn't leave and wouldn't do that until like representatives of the Japanese government had to come get him and explain that it's over.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I don't know the guy's name offhand either, but yeah.
But I remember reading it like it's a 100% real story, and then there were many more of those cases, right? And that could happen back in the day before satellites imaged everything, and we knew where pretty much everybody was, unless you were living in like in the middle of a jungle. Mm-hmm. So, so there's that. This story is still more simple and easygoing than what we saw, the convolutedness that happens in Hard Ticket, but it's they're there, and then at the same time, what is it? A naval captain is getting satellite imagery from a computer to find where the gold is to try to give it back to
the Philippines or
Philippine
something?
Philippine government, but then one of I thought it wasn't going to pay off because I'm like, did they just forget to do the payoff where the guy delivering the discs was replaced by what appeared to be an evil, nefarious man who just turns out at the very end to be CIA and on their side the whole time. So there was kind of no point in him doing it. Like, that's the one part of the plot that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, like, there was no point except just to have a couple of interesting scenes. And then at the same time, there's guerrilla revolutionary army people from, I don't know if they say what country they're from, but they keep mentioning our
revolution.
Our revolutionary party from our country that we won't name. That is some country that has a revolution party. And this is going to feed the revolution. One box of like 12 gold bars.
Like, yeah, that'll give you, bullets and ammo for like, I don't know, a couple of weeks maybe.
But I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on how poor the country is, right? Maybe. But yeah, like they never mentioned it. It's very like cookie cutter, insert country here. And
very 1980s generic revolutionary plot, like almost plucked out of like a comic book. It was so goofy.
Sure. But fun. And there's people betraying people, and it's the girls get kidnapped or they get captured, and then they're freed by the Japanese soldier who decides he doesn't want to kill white people anymore because he killed people for no reason on the island, and everybody felt bad. They felt bad, so one guy decides that he's going to take his own life because he was dishonorable. Another guy just walks into the ocean, but he stayed for the next 40 years on the island and tells the story to the naval captain, who just magically speaks perfectly fluent Japanese and can understand it and relay it when that was never established before.
Well, the plot needed it.
And
The
then,
plot needed it. It's okay.
The plot, yeah, it's fine. Again, this is written by, like, if I was like 13, this is the movie I would have written, and yet I'm gonna be 40 in a couple of years, and this is still the movie I would have written. Just maybe a little more nuanced, but that's the basic plot. There's havoc that happens on the island. They fight. They get away, and the girls end up taking a couple bars of gold because technically it wasn't anybody's property. They could privateer it off of the ocean floor.
It was salvage.
Yes. And then everybody's happy. The CIA guy that betrayed them, or that looked like he betrayed them, didn't betray them. He's actually working for the CIA, and they're taking this case over, which made no sense. But we're taking it over from the regular military, who was for no reason.
But Taryn took one of those gold bars, and that's why she's not there in Guns. She's gone.
Yeah, she's gone. She's fucking gone. But yes, this had the same revolving cast of supporting actors that we've seen in previous movies.
Except for the one girl, right, Aaron?
What Hope Marie Carlton is in this, but Cynthia Brimhall is not in this.
Yeah,
that's Edie.
One thing
from Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Yeah.
One thing I did kind of notice, and again, this is the part whenever we talk about an Andy Sidaris movie, me and Aaron talk about weapons for about 30 seconds. It felt like they were armed like G.I. Joe. They randomly have like, here is the tools we got from Shane in our survival kit. A Steyr AUG, which at that time was a fairly new assault weapon. Because I remember the main reason they put it in Die Hard, if I remember the director's commentary correctly, they wanted something that looked futuristic and weird. So for them to get a Steyr AUG, which is a German assault rifle, if I'm not mistaken, that's a little weird. And then Taryn, I think it is, gets the crossbow from CoverGirl from G.I. Joe, which randomly has exploding bolts.
Yeah, and there's some weird choices, let's put it that way. Like, okay, you have some dude that is from World War II, Japanese soldier from World War II. Are there Japanese World War II weapons in this? No. And that's just a strange choice to me. Like, why wouldn't you have an Arasaka or something like that?
It has a random samurai sword that's probably not a samurai sword.
Yeah, yeah. And then, but you do have like the blaster from Star Wars in this.
I fucking thought so, because like I saw the laser sight on it or the fucking scope on it. I'm thinking that looks an awful lot like Han Solo's DL-44, which is based upon a Mauser machine pistol from World War One.
It's one that's in Star Wars is Sterling.
The broom handle.
It's a
right?
Sterling Mark IV.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, in this movie, they got the Blastech blaster toy and used it. So it looks like, if you're just watching it as a person that's like looking for weird guns, it sort of looks like a weird Sterling Mark IV, but it's not. It actually is a freaking blaster rifle from Star Wars.
That's amazing.
Really
so
weird.
There you go, folks. A little bit of random trivia if you want to go look through this movie. But honestly, I had a lot of fun with Savage Beach. It was one of all the Sidaris movies, this one I thought had the most fun plot. Like, I love the idea that, you know, there's this gold's been missing for like kind of decades. They're using computers and algorithms to figure out where this is. I wish we spent a little bit more time with the girls as opposed to the side characters. Not because, you know, they're hot Playboy models, which certainly doesn't hurt, but I just found I loved their chemistry. Yeah. I mean, they're not professional they're not fucking Jodie Foster, but they have just a fun chemistry with each other where I get a real sense of camaraderie from them, and I really, really enjoy that. Especially the thing I've noticed with the Sidaris movies, they're having fun. Like, every frame you're seeing on there, and not to paint too grandiose a picture, but everybody I see genuinely who's part of the main cast, who's a girl, they just seem like they're having the time of their lives. And I really appreciate that, because I think that comes through in more ways than one. Other than delivering a snarky kind of one-liner, or in our next case, blowing up a guy with a rocket launcher who's about 3 feet away. It's fun. And I see very few movies from now, definitely now, I never see this now, but in the 80s and 90s, I would see this quite frequently, where you just got a real, I don't know, I guess a real authenticity to the performances, where it's not necessarily going to move you like Daniel Day-Lewis, but you get something from it. Like, there's something going on behind the eyes, and I really appreciate that enthusiasm, despite it being goofy.
It's the feeling that you can see the actresses are going, holy crap, we get to be in a movie and we get to star in a movie. There's never a sense of like entitlement from them.
Yeah.
Or like, you don't get the feeling that they're phoning it in. They're trying their best, even if their best isn't like top tier acting.
Yeah.
It's the best they can do. And they were just happy to get the opportunity. This is also, remember, this is before most people had home video cameras even. You know, the big explosion with camcorders was in the 90s. So most of these were filmed at a time when, unless you had an 8mm camera or you're an early adopter of like VHS full-size camcorders, you weren't making movies like this, you know, on your own. There's no YouTube. There's no ability to just keep filming. If you're making a movie with a movie camera meant to go in theaters or go on home video, that was a big deal, no matter, you know, what level of actor you were. So nowadays you see a ton of bargain basement movies that go on to streaming platforms for free, or get put into, you know, Redbox for $1 to rent, and they're cookie cutter, boring, uninspired, a lot of time like failed actors that couldn't make it anywhere else, and just the whole crew is poor. What you get here is a higher class of production than most of what, you know, would be deemed direct to video now. You know, with a higher budget, they knew it was going to get international distribution. You knew your video was going to get rented and bought and seen. It's not like now where most production companies that make direct-to-video movies are content mills.
Mm-hmm.
How cheap can we make a movie? How fast can we make a movie? And technically, Canon was like that. Like Canon wasn't like how quick can we make a buck on VHS. They were how much money can we make for as little as possible input in as quick as time as possible in theaters. And there was a certain standard you had to meet at a bare minimum. There's no standard of barrier of entry anymore. So the worst movies of the 80s and 90s that went direct to video are better than most of the best direct to video movies now, if that makes any sense. So I think that's where you're getting it, Michael. Like you have to be somebody who's really dedicated and really doesn't care if they're going to lose money or anything to make a direct to video movie today and not make it like crap, because it's just to most people it's just like to Tubi, to all these things, it's just content. And you may think as a filmmaker, oh, I love this and I'm making a fun movie. The rest of the world, like, you've got to make a movie that you'd be willing to watch.
Yeah,
and 90% of the direct-to-video movies now, I would be ashamed if I made.
Yeah,
them.
and to speak to that really quick, Alex, I've watched these movies dozens of times. I come back to these movies because there is a joy, like what Mike was just saying. There is a joy from the actresses and actors of doing something fun. And since, you know what, they're not Oscar-winning actors and actresses, the fun that they're truly having and the joy that they're feeling, being there and playing off each other comes across on screen. So even if it's kind of like a serious scene, you can tell everyone on screen is having fun. And you feel it. You feel it.
And my last little bit on this movie is I saw a couple familiar faces, at least to me, that brought a smile to my face. And I'll mention the one after because I know Michael knows, but the other guy you might not know, Michael, and maybe you probably don't know either, Aaron. One of the agents at the beginning that gets assassinated is James Lew, Lew. If that name isn't familiar, he's one of those guys that appeared in a crap ton of movies, usually as a stunt coordinator, and then sometimes as an actor or star. I remember probably one of his more prominent direct-to-video movies was the parody movie 18 Fingers of Death. That was, I think, about 15, 20 years ago now. But if, like, he did stunts and would be an extra on things like On Deadly Ground, Rapid Fire, Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, Showdown in Little Tokyo, you know, a lot of action movies from the 80s and 90s. And, like, the best way to describe him and what his capabilities are, what he looked like, Michael, he looks like the guy that played Liu Kang in the Mortal Kombat movie.
Okay.
If he was a little bit older and was like his stunt double. That's basically what he looks like.
So like an older version of Robin Show. Okay.
Yeah. And he's one of those guys that's always working on. I'm like, every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. He used to do a ton of movies, you know, before he got older. And so like for me as like an old kung fu movie, I'm like, oh, James Lew, but like not like Hong Kong. Like he was in almost always American movies. But the other guy that I know you've seen is Al Young.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, Al Young, and then I was like, I had to pause the movie to look him up because I'm like, did they dub his voice over with a different actor? No, the dude's from St. Louis, Missouri. I thought he was a Hong Kong actor. I thought he was part of the Hong Kong crew that most directors in the 80s and 90s, they started to pull all the people from Hong Kong to do all their stunt choreography. And I just thought he was one of the main crew members that like, because I know Jackie Chan, people always had the same people that they used. And I just thought that like Warner Brothers or whatever studios here, whenever they hired a crew, they would always hire like the 4 or 5 same guys to do all the stuff. And it's like, no, the dude's not actually from China. The dude's from Missouri. Because I'm like, that accent in my head doesn't fit the stereotype of what I figured he sounded like. Because I realized I've seen him in like 30 movies. And this is the first time I think he's ever talked.
Yeah, I can't recall a single time I've heard Al Young talk. I mean, even in Die Hard, he doesn't. Maybe a grunt, maybe, but yeah, I can't recall a single movie.
And I mean, and for anybody that doesn't know who I'm talking about, if you're a big fan of like both big budget and low budget action movies, kung fu action, genre pictures, anything that required some sort of martial art or choreography from like 1980 until I think he was in The Mummy 3, and that or Scorpion King maybe. So like for like 20, 21 years or so, this man was in everything. And
he is the henchman.
There is a documentary about him, I think, just called Henchman. And he's the Asian man with the distinct Fu Manchu goatee and the long black hair that is balding on top that you always see, like Mel Gibson or every other big Kurt Russell. Every American actor has to kill him in their movie at least once. I'm pretty sure he's been killed by Chuck Norris like 14 times.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I think more than once in the same movie they just put a mask on him. But he, like, basically, if you were watching a movie in the 80s or 90s with action and you saw like Al Young show up as a henchman, you're like, oh, one, this movie's going to be awesome because it's going to have good choreography, and two, he's going to get one of the coolest deaths in the movie. You could always, like, he's going to be the guy that dies, and he's going to die really cool. So when I saw him, and I saw that he was one of the main supporting actors, and then opened his mouth and talked, I was flabbergasted. I'm like, what is this world I'm living in where he had a speaking role? So yes, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to take a transition into our next movie in our summer of Sidaris, and this one, I liked bits and parts of this one. This one felt so awkward to me, mostly not just because it randomly stars Eric Estrada and a very young Danny Trejo. This one felt like a porno that happened to have violence in it at times. Because everybody was just randomly topless, getting naked. There were more than a few times where I'm like, you're going to see something a little bit below the belt here. And yeah, so Aaron, if you want to sum this one up,
dude,
for
it's
us,
guns.
please take it
guns.
away.
Yeah.
Before you go into that, can I make one little note in my head that I didn't write it down, but like you were saying, there was a lot more nudity in this one. I'll make two comments. Just one, I think the transition from 80s to 90s is personified here a little better in that all of his 80s movies had girls with large natural endowments, and this one is where I started to see a lot more fake boobs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, it's like it's almost like that's burned in my head as like 80s was not fake boobs, 90s was fake boobs. But that may or may not be the case, but that was something I saw here. But number two was I'm glad that nobody else was here in the apartment at the time, but like I was watching it late at night and with my headphones on, and I know I burst out and said, "I see Muff."
Oh God!
I know.
I was waiting.
I was tired, but it was in the scene where I forget the one henchwoman lady is like in the, like she's getting into the shower out of the mirror or something, and I'm like, I see reflection in the mirror. I see Muff, and I'm like, it's like we've got, and all I could think of is like we've got Bush from Revenge of the Nerds.
See, when I was watching this, I was really afraid either my wife was going to walk in while I was watching this, because there's just this random scene, and I can't remember the context because I was looking down at my phone. I was like checking emails or something, and it's just random grunting, and I was waiting for somebody to be walking by in the hallway, hearing gunfire and what sounds like people in a very passionate moment of sexual embrace. And I'm thinking, I really don't want to have to explain this one. But this was it. I don't know. This one had some interesting moments. And one of the things I really did like about it, I wish it wasn't a sex scene, but I loved the lighting in this. There's a scene where two of the lead characters, they're making love on top of a motorcycle.
Oh my God. That scene.
And
yeah.
I love
Okay.
that looks awesome. Dude. Like the lighting in that scene.
Okay, I watched these movies with Darlene. Fair enough. And we love that scene for weird reasons. Yes, the lighting is one of them, because the lighting is fantastic. It's almost out of place how good that is. And the other thing is, They're all wearing fake black leather in the middle of the desert having sex on a hot motorcycle.
Yeah, that kind of struck me as weird.
Do you know, when I saw that, you know what it made me think? It made me think Sidaris has a friend that makes like French music videos in France, and they pulled that person over to direct it. That's like, it just felt like it was completely differently directed.
It was
like
actually kind of
else.
brilliant. It was brilliant. It's just the costumes were very strange for it. I don't know. It's guns. Like the whole. Okay, so basically the plot is Eric Estrada is shipping guns from China, which look like toys with red stars on them, through Hawaii to South America. Okay, he needs to,
Yes.
he needs to get the Malibu Express girls out of Hawaii. Okay,
Wait, we have to get all of the federal agents off the island, everybody, which just happens to be just them.
I guess because they're the only competent ones on the island, maybe. Which okay,
Yeah,
fine.
wait, I'm laughing because like when they find the guns at the one point, we'll go into the plot, but we find the guns and he pulls them out and he's like, he goes, look at these guns, they're Chinese. The way he says it,
Yeah.
I could not stop laughing. He goes, they're Chinese, and it's just a big red star glued onto the side of it.
Or when Eric Estrada like fires off the rocket launcher, and I go, it's a torque oldie but goodie, So that's what it looks like. These guns are just crazy. But anyway, they try to assassinate Roberta Vasquez, who plays a character called Nicole, another playmate. She actually appeared in an earlier Andy Sidaris movie as a villain. But here she's like a leading lady. Okay. She replaces Hope Marie Carlton, because Hope Marie Carlton did not come back. The Savage Beach was her last movie. So
Was she playing the same character, or was it just a
totally different character
altogether?
Totally different character.
Okay, that's right.
And so they try, like, Eric Estrada hires a couple drag queen assassins to kill Nicole, and they screw up and murder a random innocent woman. But it still puts them on the track to go to Vegas. And at this point, like, Edie, who's played by Cynthia Brimhall, and you might remember her from Hard Ticket to Hawaii. She kind of runs the restaurant that they always hang out at. She's doing a Vegas show. Now, here's the thing. In real life, Cynthia Brimhall actually was doing a Vegas show. She actually does sing and dance and all that. So that's a weird, like, connection. But almost all this activity takes place around, like, the Rio Casino, which was kind of new at the time. And they're going to stop Eric Estrada and his nefarious plan. That's the plot. And we get some, like...
Oh, wait.
We get some magicians murdering people.
Was she Pantera?
Yeah.
That's who... Okay, it's coming back to me now.
There's a great line in this where there's this guy who plays a magician, and at some point these two... I guess two drag queen assassins have killed his brother or something. And at one point, he's interrogating them. He's like, okay, we're going to play 20 questions. You're going to give me 20 answers.
He pretends to be
a federal agent or something?
Or is he a federal agent working for their agency?
I think he is a federal agent. He's just from an unnamed yet menacing federal agency. Like, that's what he comes across as.
So he's like a friend of theirs who partners with them when they need certain things, but he's also a magician.
Yeah. He's actually working with Edie at the Rio in her show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he says, we're going to play 20 questions. You're going to give me 20 answers. And these two guys are getting smart ass answers. And he starts beating them up and roughing them up. And he's like, man, wrong answer. But at one point he's like, okay, boys, it's time to answer the $64,000 question. Okay. And he puts down a pistol and a switchblade. And he puts them down in front of them. And he's like, yeah, we're not going to answer your questions. Fuck you. And he's like, okay, what's the difference between a terrorist and a magician? And they're like, this, and they grab the knives and the guns, and he pulls a shotgun out of a hat like a fucking rabbit, wastes them at almost point blank range. And he's like, You can negotiate with a terrorist. And then he walks out of the room, and this guy comes running around the corner, like, "Oh my God, what was that racket? Oh man, you really should have checked those suspects. They had weapons. Anyway, gotta go. Bye."
Yeah, well, they
it's
it's like some comment about how he goes, "It's not my problem. I'm a federal agent."
Yeah,
or something.
you boys really should be searching perps when you bring them in. I don't know. Maybe I should report this.
And he just murders them in cold blood in a police station. Walks out, and here's the part I love the most. It took the cops like a minute to saunter up to find out what the gunshot sounds were in the office.
Yeah, like that's a shotgun. That's not exactly a quiet, discreet weapon. That is a "hi, I'm here to kill you" sort of thing.
Two shotgun blasts from the interrogation room, and two officers come up, and not a single person is yelling or pressing an alarm.
Yeah, that would have been a bloodbath in there. It just would, the whole back wall would have been just gore.
I want somebody to show that, and then splice in the scene from Terminator when he drives the car through the front of the station. Because I'm like, this is like, the appropriate response would be what exactly happened in Terminator. would be 30 fucking cops descending on you in madness, and you would be, it doesn't matter if you're a federal agent, you'd be done, son, if you pulled a shotgun in an interrogation room.
But you forget he hid it in a hat.
Don't forget, well, he's a magician.
It's magic. Gone. It just goes away. Like, yeah, it's fantastic. I don't know.
Yeah, like one thing, the side characters in this, like the main characters, I'll be honest with you, outside of the one girl who was in the last movie, I could give a shit less about. Maybe Edie. Okay, there's one scene which just makes no sense. Okay, maybe Alex or Aaron, you're probably going to know who I'm talking about. They're talking to Edie in this dressing room, and she's changing, and she's just prattling on about something. And eventually she comes around the corner, she bares her breasts at them, and this black guy goes, "Huh." And the one cop kind of scolds him. He's like, "Don't look at her." But is that black guy from anything? Like, who is that guy?
Wait. I think he's on the poster in the gym. Is he not like a Mr. Olympian?
He is.
Or something.
Like a real, I think he's a real world, like Mr. Olympia or Mr. Universe contender.
Okay, yeah, because he looked really familiar.
I think he's John Brown. And he was in Malibu.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, I thought it said Jim Brown.
He was also in Malibu Express and Picasso Trigger, by the way.
That's maybe where I kind of know him from. But yeah, like everybody else in this movie is kind of forgettable. But the side characters, when they show up, are really kind of fun. There's always something memorable about them. Edie, as we mentioned, she can sing and dance. That's kind of cool. We got shotgun magician Danny Trejo. Need I say more?
In a very, like, not the earliest role. Like at this point, he had already been acting for a couple of years, but like his big break was, you know, he was in prison, became an actor to rehabilitate, yada yada yada, and his big break was originally being a stunt guy, and then upgraded to supporting henchman sort of bigger role in Runaway Train, the John Voight of Eric Roberts movie that actually got nominated for a couple of Oscars, I believe, in like '86. And then he credits his whole career with Eric Roberts pushing the director to give him a bigger role.
Wow.
Yeah, like legit. Like I've seen him do interviews where he's like, Eric Roberts is the reason I have a career. And so he'll always, that's why like he'll show up in pretty much anything he's given, because he always feels like he doesn't feel like he deserves any role he gets. He's a very humble guy. And it's weird seeing him here, because I think most of us started seeing him in like 95 when he did like Desperado, when he started doing like the Robert
Mexican
Rodriguez movies.
guy.
And then he showed up, I think, in like, was it like Con Air or something around that time too. So like most of us started seeing him around 95, 96. So it's weird seeing him in 1990 with a prominent speaking role. And I mean, that dude is like almost 80 and he's still doing action movies now. He's always had that look. He was a little thinner back then here. So it's funny, like you see him and you're like, wow, your career really took off. And like, look at, you started in one of these cool movies. And I'll bet you if you were to ask him about this movie, he probably still has memories about how much fun it was to make. And like him being the main henchman for Eric Estrada, who, I mean, Eric can be kind of a punchline of a joke. Now he's sort of, he knows he's a wash up. So he does like Dancing with the Stars and stuff like that. But remember, at this point, he was still coming off of how popular Chips was, right? He was still pretty in demand. So this was actually a pretty good get as far as actors go. And it is, what's jarring to me is when you have somebody like Estrada who is a professional actor and how much better his line deliveries are than most of the other people in this movie.
He's hamming it up.
He took this role,
though. Come on.
And well, no, he took this role, and you can see he's like, I'm going to give it 100%, and then he's like, he probably looked around and went, oh, I can just really give it, and so he's like, I can just, he can go as big as he wants to, so he went big with this. He's going to go broad and big and have a fun time. I'll bet you he had a ton of fun filming with the ladies and with the whole crew, because you can tell there's a relaxed atmosphere compared to most of the movies and TV shows that he would have been a part of.
For sure.
So yes, it's just we're talking not so much about the plot, because this plot is a much more straightforward one. It's revenge. He tries to kill them, and I believe a couple of people specifically because they busted him originally. Is that what it was? 10 years ago, 10 years ago, the main girl's father was on a task force.
Yeah,
that busted him or
Donna's
something.
father. Yeah,
and he was presumed dead. And then to get back at them, I mean, there is a content warning here. There is a scene that implies that he rapes Donna's mom.
Yeah, I think he assaults her for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah. Maybe that's too harsh a word to say, but like it's pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the intent of what's happening, and then it cuts away to the next, and then it cuts to the next scene, and then we never talk about it again.
It's because
ever,
which is Donna's mom's played by Phyllis Davis, and this is like one of her last films. I think this might be her last speaking role.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they didn't want to bring her back.
Yeah, so like that's the one scene. That's the one scene I found a little uncomfortable, because while in the context of certain movies, I'm fine with content if it has to be like this, it felt a little out of place compared to the other movies of Andy Sidaris that I've seen. Everyone leading up to this has not had anything of a sexually violent nature, and this one 10 to 20 second scene
it felt a little dirty. That's for sure.
Like she's tied up, and then he starts groping her, and he's like, I'm gonna do to you, like he's like giving her the eyes and saying things, and she's like, no, and then it cuts away to whatever he did in the boat with her. And luckily, probably for the best, he doesn't bring it up to like taunt them later on or anything. But because it was inconsequential to the plot, I don't know why it had to be there.
Andy Sidaris was probably trying to thread the needle in this case. Like, he did want to make Eric Estrada's character seem really vile. So let's make him do something that we don't show. We're not going to show, but it's
imply it heavily.
Yeah. I would have, in this case, like, not saying that I'm a prude or don't want it or don't want things in movies. I don't think it fit this movie. I think what would have been better would have been if he wanted to torture her, like, shows him punching her or something, or he's like, I'm going to make you pay. Your whole family's going to pay. And then if he like slid a knife across her face and let her cheek bleed or something while she's tied up, something like that, really menacing and torturous without being that.
The closest thing that we've had, at least prior to this movie with an Andy Sidaris movie, is when Edie is kidnapped in Hard Ticket to Hawaii, and she's tied up, but she's never, she's never assaulted. She's just tied up in an uncomfortable way. And to me, that felt like that's enough, right? You don't need to do anything more. Exactly.
The threat of it.
Yeah, and it's not that I say it shouldn't be in movies at all. I'm saying that it doesn't fit the tone of the rest of the movies that he does.
But because these feel very almost Saturday morning cartoonish, almost, or Saturday. You know what these movies feel like? And I think, Alex, you'll agree with this in particular. You know how you and I have this big love of those Saturday afternoon serials we'd see a lot in the 1990s? Sidaris movies kind of feel like that.
They a little bit like it. I almost get, okay, two things. One, if you put their tops on the whole time,
Yeah.
this would be a rated PG movie in Canada. Because
Yeah.
there's not a ton of swearing. The violence has blood in that. This would get, maybe it would get PG-13 for the violence in the States, but in Canada, this would just be a PG movie. The nudity brings this, I think in Canada, this would qualify as a PG-13. Or we call 14A. It might.
It's a light R. Come on. Even in the U.S.,
I mean,
it's a light R.
Might hit the R.
Very, very light. I know, like certain parts of Canada, this would probably just be rated PG, if not for the fact that there's more groping scenes in this one than the last movie. If it's just topless for the sake of topless, you can get away with that with a PG rating here now, which is interesting. But again, if you covered them up, if they filmed every scene twice with a top on and top off, you could show this on like a Saturday afternoon,
Absolutely.
1 in the afternoon on regular TV, and you wouldn't have any trouble with it. And two, to your point, Michael, you know what this gives me the feel of a lot of these movies? Take away the swearing and take away the toplessness, and it's like this is going to date me a little bit. This is like me running back from high school to go. I would run in my case as fast as I could walk from my high school with my friend and his older sister, who was 5 years older than me, and I think her friend. And the four of us would go over to his house because his house was closer than mine, and we would get home just in time to start watching Passions. And we would watch Passions because we couldn't stop laughing at the soap opera with all the witchcraft and all this. That's kind of what it made me feel like. It's like it's that, it's like a soap opera where everybody's having a good time in the melodrama. So I mean, it's not necessarily in like, this isn't about witches and all this stuff, but it's that sort of feel, Michael. It's that kind of thing.
It's like over the top, goofy with just a subtlety of seriousness.
Like we're taking it's like we're serious with a smirk.
That's a very good way to describe it, because there's one confrontation where I talked about this earlier in the show, where Donna is confronting Eric Estrada, because I don't know his fucking name. He's Eric Estrada. She's confronting him.
Jack of Diamonds, who always leaves his who wants everybody to know who's killing them.
Yeah, like, all right. So he's literally being confronted. Donna has this fucking Nerf gun rocket launcher. It's so goofy looking. and he gets shot with it at almost point blank range, but the hostage Eric Estrada is holding escapes through a magician's trap door in the floor, which actually that was actually
her mother.
But they set that up. Remember? They set that up.
Yeah, so I thought that was actually kind of clever. Yeah, which that was kind of clever. That I'll totally own. But just the fact that, again, Andy Sidaris has this thing with blowing people up, because earlier in this movie, there's people being blown up in cars. There's this weird flying machine that shows up at one point, like those weird one-seater planes, and it blows up. Like, they spend a lot of movies. Yeah, like, there's a lot of, like, explosions in this movie, and they're kind of out of place at times.
You know what this is? Sidaris makes movies in a very similar way, feel, and look to the way Lloyd Kaufman made Trauma movies if you took out the goofy special effects.
So there's things that you should notice in all Andy
that.
Sidaris films. And, obviously there's the stuff just randomly blowing up, right? But you have remote-controlled vehicles that appear again in this. And you get the reappearance of the cow-skinned briefcase in it. And these are things that appear all the way through every single one of his movies. And they're blink if you miss it. At least the briefcase usually is a blink if you miss it kind of thing. But it's there. Did you remember?
I totally missed that one.
Oh, I'll tell you where it is. It's the magician when he walks into the police station. That's where all of his stuff is in the cow skin briefcase.
Oh, right.
Oh,
That's right. I forgot. Yeah. A couple little mental notes I made, other than the Chinese, the way he said that with the gun. Other things that I remember from it that I thought was funny, and this accounts for both of them, even this one especially. One thing that shows his budget, or that he doesn't think is it's not very logical, is everybody spies on everybody from about 7 feet away. In the open, it's like the people will be standing around the corner with their heads poked out. In the distance it takes from you to go from your kitchen to your living room, and nobody will notice them that they're there. And they'll be like, they leave the room. It's like, oh, we got to go save them, and then they have to like pretend to run about 12 feet. it's like everything is shot that way, but like it's in Savage Beach, there's scenes where they're hiding in the shrubs 1 foot to 2 foot away from where the actors were just talking. Like they're talking and then they're in the bushes, and the camera doesn't even pan down because they were just there the whole time standing next to them. It's just like it's so ridiculous. In this one, similar, memorable is Danny Trejo's death, because they switch to a mannequin very quickly, and it's hilarious the way it looks. And when they do so, like he dies from the running gag, right? That none of the men can shoot straight. In these, it's always the women that are the competent shooters and everything, right? So fires his gun, it ricochets up, hits the lighting fixture. A sandbag falls down next to Danny Trejo. He laughs, but then the whole lighting rig falls and kills him, and sets his mannequin on fire. and then of course the explosion, Mike, you were mentioning, she fires a bazooka that looks like it was made out of toilet paper and paper towel rolls that were taped together. Fires that at about 5 feet away. Actually, realistically, it's maybe 10 feet away. Fires it indoors. He blows up to a million pieces where nothing's left of him. Her mom, who is below the explosion by about 3 feet, is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Not even singed hair. This is the same weapon that she fired one, and it blew up a helicopter with an explosion that looked like 10 pounds of TNT. And when they blew up the helicopter, they go to a smoldering mess of about 5 pieces that are left that are on fire, and a charred body. The body wasn't blown apart. The vehicle was, and the person who was sitting next to the bomb, or next to the thing, is perfectly fine. Or like the body, the body is burnt, but it's like perfectly intact.
You know what else survives is that Ruger Mini 14 rifle that has the big Chinese red star.
Oh yeah, but Chinese.
That's perfectly fine too. You know.
The reason I keep laughing at that is it makes me think.
It's the inflection.
My favorite movie of all time, live action, is Boogie Nights. I know it's not the best movie. I know it's not, it's a good movie. To me, that has always been, since I saw the movie, 97, 98, whatever. And again, talk about inappropriate. I'm the young guy here. I was like 11 or 12 when I saw that movie. But that is still my favorite overall live action movie for just the plot, the topic, the time period it goes through, the music, the acting, everything about it. And it always, because I've seen that movie so many times, it makes me think of the scene where they're going to get the cocaine, and Alfred Molina is the guy that they're trying to sell the drugs to, and he's the eccentric producer or whatever, and he's got a little I guess sexual friend there, Asian guy that is just playing with firecrackers the whole time, and they're all getting jumpy because he keeps throwing these firecrackers in the house. And Alfred Molina turns to them, and they're like, "Don't worry about him. His name's like Pongo or something." And he whispers to them, "He's Chinese." Like that's the explanation of why he's using the firecrackers in the house. Don't worry about him. He's Chinese. And so when he said, he goes, "Look at the gun. It's Chinese." All I heard in my head was
Alfred Molina.
Chinese. And it's so stupid. It's such a stupid thing, but I will never not hear that in my head when I see this movie now.
Yeah, there are certain things where people just. It's funny you mention about people saying inflections. I saw this on Facebook the other day. Have you ever had it in your life where you'll hear, for you, it's Chinese? Well, whenever I hear somebody say, hello there, I can't help but hear Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith, and I literally have to fight the urge to say General Kenobi every single time. And I've almost done this at a city council meeting, by the way. I've had to suppress that urge.
No, I do have there's a couple of names and words that I know the right way to say them, but growing up, my mom would say them wrong, and nobody ever corrected her.
What was the way she said Sigourney Weaver or something weird?
That's number one. Well, I'll tell you in a second. Well, she also she would she wouldn't say aluminum the right way. She didn't say it. And when I say the right way, I don't mean she didn't say it like the way we say it. She also didn't say it like the British way. Like she didn't say aluminium. She would say like aluminum. Sort of like cinnamon would be like cinnamon. Like it was
what?
Yet my mom doesn't have like a speech impediment or any. It's just the reason I found out why she would get certain words wrong is she, was born here, but both of her parents were German immigrants who taught themselves English. So she would get certain words wrong because she learned them from them. As ESL, she didn't speak English at home until she was 5 years old, and they had to all start speaking English because she was going to school. So there's certain words that are the more complex words she might get wrong, and nobody corrected her because they didn't know they were saying it wrong. The other one, the one that is unforgivable that she gets wrong, and there's a couple names, but the main one that she gets wrong is, like you said, Sigourney Weaver. And I asked her, I said, what's your excuse? You've heard her name said on TV. And she goes, I don't recall hearing her name on TV for my entire life. And even to this day, unless she stops to think about what she's going to say before she says her name, she calls her Signore. Yes. Signore. Yeah. And I'll be like, who you like, as a kid growing up, I saw that name and then I heard it on TV and I was like, Mom, you're saying her name wrong. No, I'm not. And then I pointed at the TV and she's like, that's how you say her name? And I'm like, you've gone your whole life and seen so many movies with her and you've said her name wrong every time. Yeah. And she, to this day, she, like, when I see her, I'll be like, oh, there's a new Signore Weaver movie coming out. Alex, stop it. Stop making fun of me. I said, how many years did you say the name like that? And then she turned to me and she's like, well, your father never corrected me when we were married. And I said, he probably thought it was hilarious and didn't tell you on purpose. And I talked to my dad. I said, but Dad, you know what, Dad, you know what she calls Sigourney Weaver? And he just starts laughing and he goes, yeah. And I said, he goes, that wasn't a fight worth correcting. but like there's a few things like that. So I have those, Michael, where like certain things pop up, like, and I'll see Sigourney's in something new, right? Like when she was in like one of the Marvel movies or whatever, and in my head I read it as Signore Weaver in my mom's voice.
Oh my God!
Sorry for going off on a tangent, but yes, that's one of them for sure.
So yeah, guys, that is those are the two movies that we've had a chance to talk today here at the Twig Video Store. Continuing the summer of Sidaris, Savage Beach and Guns, both movies that are definitely worth checking out. They are fun, turn off your brain action flicks. I'm certain you will enjoy them if you are definitely a fan of big explosions, beautiful women, and fantastic scenery. These movies are definitely worth checking out. I think these movies are fairly easy to find, aren't they, Aaron?
There's Blu-ray box sets are out there, regular DVD box sets of all of these movies put together. They're not hard to find.
Yeah. For years, the independently released DVDs were super out of print. That's why they got like really popular on like YouTube and that. But Mill Creek put out all these Blu-rays that we were sent for review years ago when we covered some of them. and they're like regularly on Amazon. They're still in print. They're regularly like $10.
Yeah. So guys, if you want to check these out, they are not hard to find.
And they're not just upscale, from the DVDs. They are brand new scans in pristine 35 millimeter scans. And they include all the special features that were produced for those old DVDs as well. So well worth it. I mean, I don't have a ton of movies, that I keep in my permanent collection, but those are on my shelf permanently.
It's okay.
So guys, oh, sorry, Aaron, go ahead. I was going to say, yeah, guys. So if you want to track these down, please check out your local retailers. And you can find these easily via eBay or Amazon. So next time, as we continue the summer of Sidaris here on This Week in Geek, as we continue our tradition of taking a look at these Andy Sidaris movies over the course of the summer. The next time we're going to be doing one of these is we're going to be looking at a movie from 1991 called Do or Die, and then the follow-up from 1992, rather. That's going to be Hard Hunted. What a bizarre name. So we'll be taking more of the summer of Sidaris here on This Week in Geek at the Twig Video Store. So as always, folks, you can always find us here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. If you do want to contribute to the show, we do always invite listener feedback. You can reach us at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. We also have our multiple social media channels. You can also contact us privately at Mike@ThisWeekInGeek.net or Alex@ThisWeekInGeek.net. We do love hearing from you. We also do have a Facebook page and a Instagram that's, it's just kind of there. Sometimes I post pictures of Beaker and Dutch, whatever. So anyway, guys, so for This Week in Geek, from the land of Michigan, we have been. From the back of the Twig Video Store, from the land of Kitchener, he has been.
Senior Ray Weaver.
And I have been the regional manager who's not even supposed to be here today. I'm Mike the Birdman saying, be kind, rewind. And we'll catch you next time right here on the Summer of Sidaris.
Are either one of these any good? Sir,
What?
are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Quick! Change the channel!
You're wasting your life making shit! Nobody cares! These movies are terrible!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership. We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
Guns. Even in a world of turbocharged, techno-violent weaponry. Eric Estrada is the Jack of Diamonds. Smuggling guns is his profession.
This is an instrument of beauty.
It is an instrument of death.
Murder is his pleasure.
This is a simple assassination. I want it clean.
Fasten your seatbelts. There's a surprise at every turn. When you're playing for keeps, death is a sure bet.
My bet is a Smith & Wesson beats 4 aces.
Eric Estrada and 6 Playboy centerfolds, hot on the trail of cold steel. Guns, loaded, cocked, and ready to fire.